How you doing? Herald-Times sports editor Chris Korman here for our regular Scoop Talk. We did a live Scoop Talk earlier. It was pretty cool. We were just kind of testing it out, having fun.
It was good, but apparently it didn't record, so I feel like we should still do something else.
Yeah, we had like 70 people check in.
It's probably my fault.
Most of them checked in and left, which was saddening. But anyway, we are at Conseco Fieldhouse here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Yeah, for the Big Ten tournament. Indiana losing tonight 73-58 to Northwestern in a game that pretty much sort of fit in.
Kind of, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was more like the January losses than the February, lifeless blowout type thing. I mean, they obviously were up for, I think, what do you say, 32 minutes, somewhere in that vicinity, had an 8-point lead in the second half. Basically crumbled under the pressure of Northwestern's 1-3-1 zone, turned the ball over 19 times, 13 in the second half. Northwestern scored 29 points off turnovers and turned an IU lead into a Northwestern
started hitting
rout.
shots. Northwestern was two for 18, I think, from three in the first half, and once they started hitting, it changed pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, they didn't hit a ton of them. They hit them at the right times.
Oh, right.
They went 5 for 13, I guess, in the second half.
Sure.
It isn't lights out exactly, but Michael Thompson nailed 2 huge ones. They were up 6 points, and he hit one that made it 9, and then hit another one that made it 10 after Indiana scored a bucket. And from that point, Indiana didn't get it back under 9. That was pretty much the dagger right there.
Yeah. Zach, your thoughts? I think this is your third game covering Indiana.
Third live, yeah.
So covered a bunch of Notre Dame and Purdue this season also. Where is this Indiana program right now in your mind? Obviously covered last year too and know the whole backstory, have sort of a unique perspective on where it is. Just your thoughts after tonight.
Well, I actually wrote about this on Inside the Hall. Sorry about the free promo there, but
we love Inside the Hall.
Last year, it wasn't like they gave up, but it just looked like last year's team just wasn't improving by the end of the year. It was just almost playing out the string. They just didn't have anything left. This year, you still see a team that's improving. They're not very good. They're very inexperienced. They make a lot of mistakes of youth, but they're still improving.
Right.
There is still tangible, recognizable improvement. You see guys talking more. You see guys, and when they're talking, you see. I heard Bobby Capobianco come over to the bench and say something about, I can't guard the baseline and the high post, and I thought, my God, baseline and high post. What are these technical terms that Indiana basketball players are using? So I think that there is.
He had a point there. I think I know where he was going. Yeah.
there is a sense of improvement that I don't think there was at this time last year. Last year, I think, whether anyone would admit it or not, there was probably just a feeling of let's just get the season over with, and then we'll sort of hit the reset button and see where we are. But this year, even down the stretch, you could see a team improving.
Dustin, your take on the post-game interviews. We got to talk to Crean and 3 players at a podium, but you went to the locker room and had a little bit of more informal interaction with some of those guys and got to talk to them. What's your takeaway from what they were saying tonight?
Well, I mean, they were pretty honest. It was nice to finally get in that kind of setting where you're just kind of sitting down with the guy and just talking, and they're not getting questions fired at them from 5 different sources, and they're not as much on guard. I thought they would still even be more so because they did just lose, and we were coming into their locker room. But they were pretty open and honest, and really thoughtful about some things. And I asked them a lot of questions, like looking back at the season. How do you kind of view it? And they were kind of ambivalent about it. They talked a lot about it is a disappointment because we were hoping to be better than 11 or 10 and 21. But they definitely looked at it and said, okay, we think we did make some improvements this year. There are ways we came along. We felt like we came together. We felt like we toughed it out through the really tough times in February and some of the blowouts, and kind of came together as a team. So I asked them, okay, well, you obviously played better these last 2 games. You finished off the season better than you had played the previous month, but you played a lot better before that. When you look at this, do you say to yourself, what went wrong for the last month, or do you feel like you kind of worked through the tough times? And they said it's a little bit of both. Where we do kind of sit there and say, okay, this had to be there all along, right? Why were we not able to do this, for the past month? So I think a lot of them are still trying to put this year in perspective and to try to figure out, okay, was this a positive year? How far did we come along? What did we accomplish this season? Can we kind of take what are the positives? What are the negatives?
It's awfully early for them to realize that, and I think a lot of them are shell shocked. Christian Watford admitted He never thought it would be like this. Never thought that they would have a losing season like this. Never thought that he would have some of the struggles he did, even though he had a very good year. But it just, really that recognition of what it's actually going to take to be a good Big Ten players and then a good Big Ten team. I think maybe this was sort of the theme of my column. Maybe just dawned on them today. Maybe it's just sort of, and that's because the program's not that old. It just doesn't have veteran players. It doesn't have players who've been through it with Crean. And that's just not there. Crean talks about roster depth. There's also just no depth in the program. It's just so new. There's no culture that a player steps into. These freshmen who are all highly rated and stars in their teams and sort of have this hype around them. They need to be able to step into a culture and be told, here's what you got to do. And that just it doesn't exist here. It's not there. What are we going to be covering in the coming weeks? Tom Crean ended his press conference tonight talking about the number of scholarships that he currently has committed to freshmen and sophomores. I think it's 9 out of 13. So he's still too heavy, and he's saying, look, we can't do that because it means we need to restart again once these guys go through, and it limits our ability to get these great kids in 2011, 2012, which is what we'll be covering from here on out. We're going to go out, hit the AAU trail, watch some high school games coming up. We're going to be seeing these kids, and there's a great Indiana class, and that's without even thinking about who they might be able to get in on nationally as the program grows. So what are we covering the next couple weeks?
Well, obviously we got to see what shakes out just with these guys. I mean, that I'm kind of surprised he went there tonight, because what he's basically saying is there's a good chance that someone gets called in the office and gets the pat on the back and says, son, you might want to look at a mid-major program. Right. So that I'm surprised. Obviously
Crean is very frank about certain things. It's very he's very. It's you're never quite sure what it's going to be, but he's
He said, I mean, again, as we said before, he says a lot of things without directly saying.
Right.
I mean, that's obviously he didn't come out and say, I'm going to call X, Y, and Z into my office and I'm going to ask them to transfer. But he pretty much said, when you say you've got to balance your classes, that means someone has to leave said classes.
Christian Watford was asked tonight because fans were chanting transfer at him while he was shooting free throws, which also happened in West Lafayette, and he had acknowledged it's on the message boards. I see it. I know about it. He said he is not going to transfer.
Right.
Take him at his word. Most kids, we've been asked so often about the transfer thing, and I just don't think anyone makes that decision in the middle of the season. You need to sit down after the season, figure out where you're at.
Call your parents, sit down, find out,
and talk to your coach.
Yeah.
So we'll be covering a lot of that moving forward here. Zach, I understand you'll probably be covering some NCAA tournament. Where can people find your work?
I guess NWITimes.com, unless they live up in the region, in which case just pick up a Times in Northwest Indiana, open it to the stories about Purdue, and hopefully Notre Dame. That's more money for me.
If they get sent to the same in the same bracket, Zach will have them both. He'll be all over that. That'll be a great experience.
Go back to Milwaukee. It's a nice place.
Dustin and I, meanwhile, will jump on the Bloomington South coverage. Hugh Kellenberger, our usual high school
is a father.
Writer, had a baby this week, so he's dealing with that, having a lot of fun. Dustin and I went over. Baby's he's a good-looking little guy.
He is.
He's future Atlanta Brave.
Quite handsome. So we'll do that. Obviously, Matt Carlino, Indiana commit, plays for that team, and they will, if they can win 2 games on Saturday, will tie the all-time record for consecutive wins in Indiana high school basketball. Major accomplishment. So looking forward to that. We just want to thank you all for being in our chats this year and for watching our videos and just being around. We've enjoyed the interaction, and hopefully we'll see you for football and baseball and AAU and all that we got coming. Thanks. See ya.